I left Trinidad early in the morning, heading toward Playa Larga. Somewhere along the way, we stopped for coffee. Food was hard to find. There weren't many options, so I ended up just ordering a cup of coffee. Because, well, coffee's everywhere in Cuba, but food? That's different, especially if you're a vegetarian. So I just waited. By the time I got to Playa Larga, I was starving. I found this little restaurant completely empty. I ordered rice, eggs, some veggies, a little salad. Simple, but honestly, I was just happy to have a meal. After eating, I went straight to the beach. The sand was warm under my feet. I saw this guy with a machete chopping coconuts, and I knew this was my chance. Fresh coconut water, cold, sweet, exactly what I needed. I stayed on the beach for hours, just soaking it all in. Made some dog friends, wondered, let the day slow down. Before it got dark, I decided to walk to the real Playa Larga, the actual beach about 30-minute walk away. On the way, I passed this abandoned house. It was falling apart, broken windows, crumbling walls, but something about it pulled me in. Like if I stood there long enough, it would tell me its story. Then the sunset, the sky turned gold, pink, burning orange, and just as I was taking it in, I looked the other way, and there it was. Full moon rising over a deep purple sky. For a moment, it was just me, no one else. I woke up to the sunrise, a kind of morning that makes you just stop and breathe it in. Breakfast was simple, but good. And then hopped into an old car, one of those classic ones you see everywhere in Cuba. We were heading to a national park about a 30-minute drive away. When we got there, our guide met us and started pointing out the birds, Cuba's national birds. He even used bird sounds on his phone to try and call them closer. We walked and walked, then we reached the cenotes. As we kept walking, the guide pointed out more birds, and then we spotted something else. Some kind of lizard. And then a snake. A huge snake. It moved slowly, barely noticing us, but we all stayed quiet. Careful. It was probably the biggest snake I've ever seen. After the tour, I got back on a collectiva, one of those shared taxis, to start the journey to Viñales. But first, I had to stop in Havana to switch cars. And Havana was something else. Streets were dirty, crowded, chaotic. Felt different, almost overwhelming. I had planned to explore the city because Havana, but just passing through, I knew I didn't need to stay there. So many other places in Cuba that felt more real, more peaceful. And when I finally got to Viñales, it was like a deep breath after all that noise. Quiet streets, open landscapes, horses wandering through the fields, and then found this restaurant, El Paraíso. It was paradise, literally. I ended up staying at El Paraíso for a while. The food was all grown right there in the fields surrounding the restaurant. Everything was fresh, real, the kind of meal that just feels different. Honestly, probably the best food I had in all of Cuba. After eating, I got a cup of Cuban coffee and just sat there, overlooking the view. The mountains stretched out in front of me, rolling green hills, the valley of Viñales, so peaceful, so alive. I got up and started walking. The air was warm, the land stretched open, and as I wandered down the path, I saw an old man. He was walking around the field, moving slowly with the kind of ease that comes from years of knowing the land.
En total creo que 3. ¿Vas a comer? Ya comí. Llamo Miguel. Miguel. Mucho gusto, Liora.
As we talked, he pointed to the tobacco plants.
¿Ese es el tabaco? ¿Puedo verlo?
He told me about them, how they're grown, dried, prepared. Then he reached down, pulled out this wooden box, and opened it. Inside, layers of dried tobacco leaves, rich and earthy. He looked at me and smiled, like he already knew the answer. You want to try one? Before I could even say yes, he started rolling.
¿Cuántos días tenemos que esperar?
Un día.
Un día solamente.
In just a few moments, he handed me a freshly rolled cigar straight from the land. Before handing me the cigar, he reached for a small jar of honey. He scooped a little onto my hand and nodded for me to taste it. It was rich and sweet.
Ooh.
É orgânico, orgânico.
Ah, sí.
After a few puffs, we got up and he led me further into the field. The air was warm. He pointed out different plants, sharing little details about the land, the way things grow here. And then, as we walked, sky started changing. Shades of gold and orange stretched over the valley.